Travis Wingate. Today in the news, Samoa is in the merge of a coup. The previous prime minister is refusing to step down and has locked the new one out of parliament. So she had to be inaugurated in a tent. And so there's a debate as to whether that is an official act or if it had to be in parliament, which the old guy, the previous guy, blocked to prevent her from entering. So chaos in Samoa. And then Belarus, the leader had downed a plane, commercial plane. Is it commercial? Or a passenger plane. To arrest an opposition leader who's a journalist, and his girlfriend as well, as he's facing the death penalty for being the opposition. And if you remember, Venezuela also went through something like that. As that chaos, we still had a missionary, or returned missionary, who had gone back to marry a woman he had met on his mission, and they then set him up with a room full of weapons and were indefinitely holding him, and Senator Hatch had to get Trump to get him freed to return home. And you'd think that the church would not be involved in any of these or be friendly with any of these. Not the case. Both Samoa and Belarus are on the no-fly list, or non-extradition country list, sorry. And so the church can easily flee to either of those countries in order to escape extradition back to America for criminal charges. But the church would never commit crimes. Why in the world would they do that? So, the church came out with an official statement. No more temple marriages for time only. So I wonder if they're going to change the sealing text, as a certain someone exposed the church on the sealing text for sex slavery and sex trafficking, which caused YouTube to shut down this troublemaker's channel for a bogus claim, just to have him silenced. We'll have to wait and see. Unfortunately, I can't see the actual notification by the presidency, because you got to sign into your church account. And mine's around here somewhere, filed away. Haven't used it in years. So I'll see if I can find it, I guess, some year. Yeah, they're tightening the ship to keep certain people from reading certain things now, it looks like. And Putin's making the move to take back all of Eastern Europe. Yep. But the church news also did a summary article on another topic that the certain troublemaker was denouncing on his latest videos. And if you think it's just a coincidence, you do not understand. Because on my TWG channel, the #1 video is about Nelson changing the changed temple text that he did. And he changed it because of that certain troublemaker who brought it up in court for the crimes that are declared in it. And yes, the judges are compromised to the church, but nonetheless, the documents are in the public record. And to obtain your own copies, you either have to go to this troublemaker's videos as he read them to you, or have an account with the company that allows you to obtain the PDF versions of it. Or you can file a Freedom of Information Act or something like that, and I guess you can obtain it. But they came out with all of the prophets who have talked about the reality of mental illness. There is no reality of mental illness. I've gone over in specific detail talking about the technical terms of dichotomy and non-dichotomy categorizations. I mean, this other person, the troublemaker. Yep. See, the church, as I dropped the bomb in a recent video, I had obtained insider information that the University of Utah, which their Cancer Institute got busted on John Oliver's show yesterday, as well as ABC4 News Utah. A double whammy for Utah on John Oliver's show. But their mental health program at the University of Utah is planning on increasing clients. That's not what you're supposed to do. That's a crime. And I've gone over with you the specific claims of mental illness, such as bipolar disorder. Nope, doesn't exist. People's emotional responses are not a mental illness. They don't look for a cause. And so it's only used when a person can't be controlled, when they want them to. You know, like the news is arresting political opponents or journalists who are opposed to a regime. You know, in Nazi Germany, Jews were purposely designated as mentally ill so that human experimentations could be done on them. And we're not talking about just lying on a couch and expressing their feelings. We're talking torture, physical torture, And then in the 60s, Russia used it on political opponents. Oh, you have schizophrenia. I'm going to have to lock you up in an asylum. And it was in the 60s that John F. Kennedy, President Kennedy, signed into law that all asylums in the United States had to be done away with. And thus, Utah, their asylum in Provo, was renamed to a hospital. And if you don't know, those who get doctorate degrees in psychology or psychiatry are the ones who are drug dealers, who get kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies to perform human experimentations on people who don't have mental illness, but are diagnosed with mental illness, so that they can perform human experimentations. This is the con of psychology. But they're designated as doctors because they got doctorates. They're not medical doctors, they're doctorate doctors. Big difference. And the courts and the legislatures have accepted the field of psychology as a legitimate business and to use them as expert witnesses in courts. Was it Utah? No, it wasn't Utah. Somewhere else. I saw in the news. The person was, the Buffalo Man guy at the insurrection. He was ordered to be evaluated for competency. Obviously, but that doesn't mean he's got a mental illness. He committed a crime. He needs to be charged for his crimes. But instead, the judge is saying, I think this guy's whacked out of his mind. Yes, of course he is. All criminals are whacked out of their mind. But that's not a mental illness. It's a crime. And if you don't know, Utah focuses on behavioral problems as a mental illness. They've gone in different phases over the decades. In the 80s, being gay was a mental illness, and the church helped support this by performing shock treatment therapy to cure them of being gay. And then there were other times where they got drug courts and mental health courts now. If you take drugs while you're mentally ill, they don't consider it brain damage. And so that it's a big fraud being perpetuated. Well, this insider information I got is that they are planning on increasing clients. Well, there's no such thing as a mental illness. So, who are they going to be increasing at their center, at the U? And it's expected they're going to increase their bed capacity, whatever they're planning. And it's going to be very soon, which is also concerning. And so to have the church, who's been involved with psychology to protect the church, to lock people up and destroy their lives, it's unfortunate to have Mormons still deny and resist, to have YouTube still shut down this other troublemaker's channel, to prevent the warning voice from going forward about the dangers that we are about to come across. Because if you think that you're in the clear, you're not paying attention to my videos. Nemo did the video last week that I covered where his friend went to an excommunication court. Nemo and his friend are Mormon, but they think the church could do better by making some changes. They don't understand, in the church's mind, that's apostasy. They think, oh, well, the church could be better. Yeah, well, in my case, I found out Joseph Smith was a translator. Isn't that awesome? Nope. The church paid to have me assassinated. That's the fun part about thinking that the church could be better than you think it is. And as the church is clamping down on this, as a psychologist even, she was excommunicated. And John Delen's a psychologist. He was excommunicated. And so, yes, they are organizations that are against the principles of the church. And so, yes, all psychologists should be excommunicated from the church. You can't get a temple recommend unless you can answer that question in the affirmative. I do not affiliate with any organization whose principles are contrary to the church. But nonetheless, the church picks and chooses. So it's just another warning for you, because when you hear the prophets speak about the reality of mental illness, they're deceiving you. If you're depressed, there is postpartum depression, but that is an actual physical problem that a medical doctor can help women with. Post-traumatic stress disorder or syndrome. No, they were traumatized in war or violence of some kind, if it's civilian. To have a person drugged and to talk about it with some person that has to get paid, that's further abuse. There needs to be punishment for crime. Otherwise, people who don't get restitution, their lives are destroyed and they got no restitution. They lost loved ones and there's no justice. They've lost property, no justice. And so, yeah, there's a big difference on what really goes on as to why it's not a mental illness. And so it's very dangerous, it's very deadly that America has allowed psychology to rise to the prominence that they have taken. Because in my day and age, Bad Boys, which was technically Bad Boys 2, Lethal Weapon, and The Terminator, and shows like that were all mocking psychology. And nowadays, everybody's trying to embrace it in their shows. Even Fox's attempt to do a TV show of Lethal Weapon, they were trying to promote it rather than treat it as ridiculous. But I still like the show. It's just unfortunate that the guy the original Lethal Weapon was Trouble Offset, and so they had him replaced, and the new guy, I wasn't sort of ruined the show by thinking that his actions justified termination. I don't know the full story, but if it's true, then yeah, you should go, I guess. But yeah, so the church is still keeping track of my videos, apparently. So that's funny. That means they got YouTube to prevent the church from getting more views by their viewing of my videos. So they figured out how to avoid that for future. But yeah, the two issues are the two things that I've been talking about lately. So there you go.